So now we're going to learn how to do stairs. So first thing we're going to do is measure how far we got to go down. So we measure that and we get 31 inches. Now I got to go down a little bit further to the ground, so I just rounded it up to 33 inches. And then you can go to mycarpentry.com or search stair calculator. Type in how far down you gotta go, and it'll tell you a lot of good information. So that'll give you an idea of one of the last calculations. It calls for a stringer length, and it said for 57 inches. So I made it a little bigger because you're gonna have to cut the ends and stuff off. So I used 63 inches, and we're gonna see if it's long enough because this is a scrap board. Now the next thing you do is you do a 5.5 inch stringer, so you can run the chalk line all the way down to the other side, and then now you know how to calculate your stairs by testing out some angles. Another thing you can use is a 2x6 because it's going to be a lot cheaper to cut this side and the bottom to make it flat on the bottom to go on the ground. So if you use a 2x6, that gives you those first two cuts, and then you have a start of a pattern, because it's the very hardest part is to get this cut and this cut right without ruining your board. So then basically what we're doing here now is there's a couple ways you could do it. You could have this as your last step, or you can have the last step flush with the top of the decking. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do that just to give you a bigger landing, because this landing here is actually a little on the small side, but it was the easiest way to do it this way. And so the boards are going to overhang a whole nother 10.5 inches, because that's what our 2x12s are. We're using for steps. So now what I'm doing is I'm using an angle finder. It gives you the degrees on the stair angle finder. I put that up. Now I have it level. I have it here at my 33 degree mark, which is what it calls for. 32.9, 33, same thing. And so then I'm taking this corner and bringing it to this corner here, and then I can make that first cut. So what I do is I take a 2-foot level, and it doesn't really actually even have to be to that corner. It just has to be to this corner here actually. And then you want to make this level, and then we're going to scribe our mark across the whole thing. And so now we have that first dimension. The pressure treated wood can really bind your saw up sometimes, so this is all the further I could go without stalling my saw. So I'm going to come over here and cut a triangle out. And now I can keep cutting again. So then, after we cut that angle, then we find our level point again. And basically just kind of let the board fall till it hits level. Right there's our level mark. So then we're just going to use a real simple way to tack it in there. And that should kind of hold it there, just real temporary. And then we come down here to the bottom, and we find our level again down here. And we make a mark, and that'll cut us our bottom off. So then what I did is right here's our chalk line. I brought the level right up to that corner, and then I made it level. And then this gives me my line right here, so I can cut this off, and this would be the bottom of the step. So now that I cut the bottom off, it's on the ground, and I'm still short for where I need to be from my mark by a long shot, because I need to be from this mark down to here is where I determined, because I want to make both of them the same height. So I can measure this and figure out how much more I gotta cut off the bottom. And right here I have about 8 inches. So it's almost a full step basically. So then I can measure this down here and do that. So now you might be wondering how you measure that. So what we do is we measure from this corner out 8 inches. And then we measure from this corner right along the line. That way you get nice and square. And we measure 8 inches there. So then we take a straight edge, we put them on both the marks. And that'll give us our 8 inches. If you do it otherwise, you're gonna cut way too much off. Don't forget, you're actually gonna have to mark it all the way across. That way you get the proper cut. Another thing you can do is just take a sliver out, and then that makes it easy to get squared up with your line again, because pressure treated moves your saw all over the place. Binds it up, stalls it out. So when I did the last cut, I was wrong. If you measure 8 inches this way, it gives you a whole nother line. So what you need to do is, because we needed 8 inches last time, but now we only need 4 inches, we take the square, we make our mark for 4 inches, we make our mark for 4 inches over here, and then we make our line going across. You see, we only took 4 inches off last time, and that was where we was at for 7 inches. So now it might come up just a hair short, but this is what we're going to try. So now I got my orange mark laid out against my other mark, so now I have a proper cut. So now we can start measuring the right angles and things. So now the next thing that we do is, we already have this mark here, so we're going to put a level on that mark, and then we find our level, and once we find that, we make our strike, and then that should be between 9 and 9.5. Normally they're 9 1/4, and we have 9 3/8, so that's good. And then we go and we draw a level down from that corner there. Oh, by the way, I tacked this board up here so it stays plumb and it stays at the right height. So now I got it level, strike a mark, and there we have it. Then that should give me 7 inches. So I know I did that right. And 7 inches from that corner there to the chalk line. Then we do that again, just get the level out. And then we double check that again. And we have the same measurement, so we're doing good, and we just keep doing that. Now that I got all my lines drawn, I can take my board off. And another good thing when you're doing carpentry is put X's in the spots that are getting cut off and removed. So one, you know which side the blade needs to be on the line, even though normally should cut. You got to get used to cutting the line off or leaving the line, and you got to have all kinds of special techniques and stick with those as you progress, and that way you have the most precise cuts. But we're going to use a circular saw and cut the joints. When you get to the corners here, you're not going to get them all the way, so we finish them with a jigsaw. You got to make sure that you hold on to this piece when you're cutting it with the jigsaw, as otherwise it'll snap off, and then it'll leave a corner in here, and it gives you a lot more chisel work. I mean, it's easily fixable. I'm sure one of them's going to happen. I'll show you how to fix that. Now that I used the circular saw to cut these two cuts, I got right to the corner. And you just finish them off with a jigsaw. Hold this piece. And then make sure you hold the piece on the other side. And that made a nice clean cut inside the corner. As you can see, there's just a little bit of rubbish in there, so you can actually just take a chisel and just kind of bump it with your hand a few times just to kind of square the corner up a little bit. Depends how fussy you want to be. Carpentry is one of them skills where you just hone yourself throughout your whole life and learn different techniques. Much better. Now that I have this stringer made, we're going to just trace it. So make sure your edge is lined up all the way across and just put 1 or 2 screws in on the way going down. Don't sink them in hard because you got to be able to pull them back out. And then we just trace it and then cut the same one, and then usually you make 3 of these at a minimum. The big thing is make sure you always trace this one. So we'll make this one the copy, or no, we'll make this the main, we'll call it. Always trace the same one so these are all close as possible together. So this is what the staircase looks like afterwards. And here's the website that I used to give you some more information.